I'm here with Ian Bremmer, noted author, founder, president of Eurasia Group, and also a colleague who was at APEC last week. Ian, I wanted to get your take on that. Let's start. Obviously, a lot of the attention was on the meeting between President Xi and President Biden. Good news?
Certainly welcome news. Not uniquely good news, but I mean, the fact that they met for 4 hours on the back of a lot of planning, and the meeting on the various topics went as well as expected, in a couple of places a little better than expected, and set against a context of very deeply challenging geopolitical conflict that is getting worse. I think pretty much everyone at APEC, not just the Americans and the Chinese, not just the private sector, but all the other countries, they really want to see a little more stability, a little less uncertainty in this relationship. I think we can say we came away with that.
So you said some of it went better than expected. Anything specifically that surprised you?
Two places that were a little warmer. One was that the agreement on fentanyl is a bigger deal than expected. The fact is the Chinese have already taken down a number of the companies that they were talking about that are putting out precursor ingredients for fentanyl that are exported, and a lot of them are making their way to the United States, including to San Francisco, where APEC was hosted. So that is welcome, and it matters for the election. Of course, it's a domestic issue that has just been a disaster for American public policy and for communities across the country. Secondarily, the fact that 4 new high-level channels are being established immediately on military-to-military conflict. You know that over the past months, we've seen increasing numbers of near misses between U.S. and Chinese military, particularly aircraft, operating in the region, and the potential of that to lead to an unintended military conflict between two countries that nobody wants to see is real. And the Americans have been asking ever since the pandemic to get those military conversations to deconflict the two countries in the incidents of those incidents. They want to see that happen. The Chinese have said no, because the Chinese perspective has been that allowing deconfliction gives the Americans freer rein to act in risky ways and know that it's not going to escalate. So in other words, it's giving the Americans more control on escalation. And the Chinese decided to back off of that and go ahead with that engagement. And I think we should not underappreciate how important that is. Okay, maybe it doesn't matter day to day, but anything that makes it less likely that we have a sudden crisis between the two most powerful countries, two largest economies in the world, I think is a big deal. The rest of it went pretty much as expected, but I would also just put a pin in the fact that the Americans making it clear to the Chinese that there would be no unexpected negative surprises during this trip gave China, facing a lot of domestic economic headwinds and the first negative foreign direct investment numbers since you've seen records starting to be kept on that, they really leaned into that. And as a consequence, you saw a charm offensive with the private sector in attendance, and also with a number of other countries in attendance, like Australia, like South Korea. And I spoke with a lot of those leaders, and they've been seeing it. I think that China would have been less willing to do that if they thought that Biden might suddenly come out with new export controls, new tariffs, sort of a more hostile stance. So the Chinese felt more comfortable, if you will, showing a little leg in this meeting, in the summit meeting more broadly, than I think that Xi Jinping normally. He's been quite risk averse typically in these summits. That ended up being helpful too.